Audio-visual. Two sides of the same coin, both equally important. The Amazing Digital Circus, in my humble opinion, looks great, I think. It looks really good. But I wanted to take the episode 7 breakdown to explore more so the audio side of things and how we handle that. Honestly, it's the part of the pipeline that I have the least amount of involvement in, but hey, what better time to educate myself? I do still want to touch on some really cool visual breakdowns that we did for episode 7, but first, audio.
Now go have fun!
So sound and music go through 3 separate people to get produced for Digital Circus. The first pass of both sound and music comes from the director, Gooseworks. She works with the pre-production team to make the animatic, so while our artists are drawing up frames and putting the scenes together, Goose is helping provide temporary sound effects and stand-in music. Now let me explain sound for production real quick. To make things simple, and I'm really simplifying things here, sound for production falls into 2 major categories. We've got diegetic sound and we've got non-diegetic sound. Diegetic sounds are sounds that exist within the universe of the show, and they're sounds that the characters on screen can hear. So Foley is what we call interactive sounds. The sound of someone's footsteps, the impact thud of a hit, scratching of a pencil on paper.
We could terminate it.
All these sounds fall under this category. Ambience, or atmos for short, which is short for atmosphere, are sounds that set a scene's location or mood. Like, splashing or waves at a beach.
Did you find it?
Nah, somebody plundered it before I could.
What?
And then, of course, there's dialogue.
Have I ever told you how it's my dream to get eaten by you?
That's a weird thing to say and want.
The voice lines of characters speaking. Now, non-diegetic sounds, these are the sounds that are not necessarily heard within the show's universe. A stinger is a sound that is associated with a particular on-screen action. A great example of this is actually the Black Hand Resurrection effect in Gaslight District. And here's something for you. This tripped me out when I started thinking about it. A character's internal monologue or narration lines or like a voiceover, that can technically be categorized as a non-diegetic sound because nobody on screen is actually hearing that.
A world of possibility, where fantasies became reality, where tall tales became indisputable truths.
I'll put it this way. Do you hear your thoughts or do you think them? Right? Those thoughts don't exist in sound. They never become wavelengths and vibrations that become sound. It's in here. Mickey Mousing is a term that refers to music or sound that precisely mirrors on-screen actions. This technique is one of the earliest forms of matching sound directly to picture on screen. The best example I can possibly give you here is Steamboat Willie from 1928, since Disney is the one who popularized the term, and Digital Circus doesn't actually use this technique all that much to begin with. I've never actually seen all of Steamboat Willie. This should be fun. All right, let's continue. And finally, we have music, sometimes referred to as the score, but that's only when it's music that's been originally produced for the show or the movie. The music of a show is there to help communicate emotion and feeling to us, the viewers. Characters typically can't hear the music that we hear as viewers unless it's being produced on screen, like a musical number or they're playing music through headphones that we can hear.
Day after day we fly past the moon and the sun, and we don't know why.
When that happens, then it falls into diegetic sound because that music is now being produced in-universe on screen.
Kane, is this one of your NPCs or is this a new sucker? Because if it's a new character, we're gonna have to redo this whole theme song.
I love music. I wouldn't call myself a musician, but I do like to dabble. But you know who is? You know who's a really good musician? Evan Alderetti, the co-composer for the Amazing Digital Circus.
The interesting thing about Digital Circus and kind of like the approach that Goose and I have taken to this is I feel like it's like a slight difference to like kind of how other shows do soundtracks in that a lot of the soundtracks are they are written for their respective scenes, but they're not heavily timed that much to what happens like immediately on the screen. they kind of exist almost as their own like songs that you can just kind of listen to, and then they're like kind of layered into the show. Not all of the tracks are like that, but a fair amount of them actually end up being like that, where it's like it's just going to start here, and then it's just a song, and then it just ends here. There are sequences that are dedicated to music that are actually directed by music rather than the other way around. In my opinion, soundtrack writing is a bit of like it's a less respected art form because it's always like secondary to like, oh, like, you know, the picture is the real art, right? And then it's like the soundtrack is sort of like complements it. I like it when you get that inversion. I think my favorite one I worked on was the it's in episode 2 where Pomni and Gummy Goo are shooting out of the out of bounds area, and then there's like kind of that big musical swell. It's like that was something where it's like the storyboard was sequenced to the music.
What do you use like to make the music? What software?
The software?
Yeah.
I use Cubase. Cubase is a really interesting program. It's like, it's not super popular anymore. It's kind of like a legacy type thing. I'm just really used to it.
You do not need to pay big bucks to have some fun with some composing software. Honestly, I just use GarageBand on my MacBook. It ticks all the boxes for me to have some fun. And there's plenty of other software on PC that you can use as well. There's Cakewalk, there's BandLab. There's so many options out there if you just want to try this stuff out. So this is all that you get from Goose.
Yes,
these layers,
and then kind of like the music, like the MIDI stuff.
A MIDI, or a musical instrument digital interface, is a way to play virtual instruments. So you can take the notes that you play on a virtual piano and you can transfer them to a virtual guitar or any other instrument that you have on the software. It's also very easy to see a musician's notes or chords within their MIDI data. It's just really dynamic information. Here, Evan uses the psychedelic jack scene as an example on making a score come to life.
So it's like guitar, there's like some flutes, they're playing, I don't know, they're kind of bouncy, floaty. And there's like piano comes in. And I think I replaced this instrument, which is like an E piano. I end up replacing it with a saxophone. So we got a string line comes out. And then it's kind of, you know, got this kind of like, you know, build up. I can sense there's like kind of like, you know, we're moving somewhere. And then big build up, and then it cuts off.
Yeah.
So then I take that and I'm like, I just start off with this. It's like I have this like guitar instrument I can just kind of noodle on. And so when I put it all together, it's like this. So
this is a MIDI?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So it was 2 flutes before. I made it 4 woodwinds now. I added that little flair because I felt like it's like it's a little playful. And so we can actually, here's all of our strings slowly coming in. More guitar. I can actually add that. So this is all the oranges are guitar, actually.
Jeez.
And so there's actually more voices here playing in the strings than were in the example. I can kind of extrapolate out, like, just based off of our chords, where it's going.
Yeah, wow.
This is a lot of what orchestration is about. And it's also this is something that I do. I like to imagine that a theoretical ensemble of players that's actually like playing this music. This represents like the dynamics. So if I do this, they'll play it like super loud. You can see it's like they're like super aggressive now, but it's like it's overbearing. They would never play this like that. The practice of playing an instrument is just as fun as like writing music. And so it's like that's like a synthesis that I like really care about that in music.
How many instruments can you play?
Really only one. This is me playing my saxophone.
Oh, wow.
Here. So occasionally I get, if you ever hear a saxophone in Digital Circus, like it's me playing. Like the credits music at the end. Like that's me.
That's sick, yeah. So do you just sit there and like play into the microphone when you need like a sax?
Yeah, I just use this microphone. It's like I'm not big into the whole like, it's like people are like, oh, you need to buy like, you know, $1 million of gear and you need all your fancy microphones in a treated room and stuff like that. And I'm just like, who cares?
Yeah, that's refreshing.
Like if it sounds good, it sounds good. This was a really fun piece to work on. I will say, I put a lot of time into this.
Yeah,
because I knew
a big moment.
Like pretty heavily featured. Yeah, I do a little trills and stuff like that. That's my kind of favorite thing to do is just like if we listen to the original here, like there's no like trills or anything like that. But it's like I just thought it would add a little like a little sparkle here and there. I don't like these sort of creative endeavors being like deep mysteries. I don't think there's really any value in having stuff like that. Like a mindset I usually like to go through with life is when I see something cool or interesting, it's like, well, that was possible. So that's like step one is I know that it's possible because I just saw it. So someone made it. So now I just need to figure out how they did it.
That's awesome, man. That's perfect. That's a great way of looking at it. Yeah. You can follow Evan and what he's doing on his socials. I've linked them down below. He also did this awesome, really in-depth musical breakdown on Digital Circus's music with this YouTuber, Cadence Hira. I'll put that down below as well. It's really good stuff if you want to jump right into the nitty-gritty of things. And from music, we go to audio design. We are incredibly lucky to work with Fabian at Epic Mountain for our mixing. Fabian is a German guy who lives in Portugal who loves to surf in Southeast Asia. He's also an incredibly talented sound designer. And he loves dogs. Oh my god! Hi! Hi, Yoshi. Oh!
When we first started like with the pilot, I think Goose, she already had like a, you know, because she said she wanted to have those like really old school cartoony sound. That should be like the bass.
Oh yeah.
Like those sounds are so specific that you can't really fake them, because if you want to have these like really old school cartoony boings and stuff like this,
I'm gonna head out. See ya.
You're so used to those sounds that you can't like really use another one. If you have those sounds in mind, that's the one you want to hear.
We primarily use the Hanna-Barbera sound effects library, which actually started producing these iconic sounds as far back as the 1960s. And Fabian's right, these sounds are synonymous with what we think of as cartoony sounds. Since this particular library was designed to be royalty-free from the very beginning, these sounds were heavily utilized in kids' shows, and by the 1990s, they were used by nearly every major animation studio. They're still just as popular today. I mean, I even found some of these sounds on my kid's toy here.
But then there was another thing which was like important to me, to get everyone like a bit like not like a human feel, but the feeling that like they are alive, you know, that you hear like whenever someone is moving, like you have those tiny like cloth sounds. They're really subtle, so you don't like hear them very loud, but there would just, something would be missing, I think, you know, if you don't have those sounds.
Oh, thank God.
and also some like just like basic ambient room sounds.
Yeah, so I guess every area, every environment has its
every
own...
area has its own room. I mean, that's nothing special, of course, but using those sounds, I think, gives the whole show like a bit like a human and like a deeper touch, I would say.
What would you do if I abstracted tomorrow?
I'd move on.
I remember we did the launch, me, you, and Goose, and like you saw the boards for the first time of that fight, and you were like, "Wow, that's intense."
Okay. Okay. I understand.
Yeah, I think the mix is important because like that's especially like this scene where like Pomni and Jax like having this like long conversation because there's actually nothing happening for like a longer period. You only hear those like small sounds and then they start and it sounds like quite real.
Stop!
This works quite well because this because it's like a really emotional, deep, I would say like deep conversation.
There's nothing more to me.
And that in comparison to like the over-the-top cartoony stuff, I think that works quite well. And that makes those quiet moments even more intense, I would say.
Fabian uses Pro Tools, which is basically the industry standard when it comes to mixing voice lines and sound effects and music, all with extreme precision and control. Once we have the episode time-locked, so we're not adding or extending any more shots, we then send all the voice lines and the sound effects lines to Fabian so we can start mixing. We usually send around, depending on the episode, 10 to 15 voice lines and then maybe another 15 to 20 sound effects lines. It varies episode to episode. He'll then clean up these sounds that we've sent him, or he'll find some completely new ones to add to the final mix.
Yeah, with Pomni, Regatha, Kinga, with the different tracks here. And then we have those ambient tracks. And what I wanted to show, because we were talking about the music and the leveling.
Oh.
This is when Evan sends me the tracks, it looks like this. You only have like the basic waveform here.
Mm-hmm.
And then one part of like the whole mix is, I can draw like automation here. Can you see?
Yeah.
So there's like one level and then it gets a bit quieter and louder and everything. This is basically the mix for the whole music. Every second has like a different level for the music volume.
Oh man, I didn't know it was that
it's
intense.
a bit complicated, yeah.
Jeez, how many tracks do you have for a given episode, roughly?
This is just voiceover, and then the SFX, they start here. So we have, these are all like different tiny sounds. These are all,
Oh my god.
when I zoom in, yeah, these are all different sounds. And most of them, they are all always layered with something else. So then we have those like Foleys, which are, these are only like the cloth sounds.
Oof.
Yeah, you have those. You have, I have, let me check. I have steps. Yeah, you can see it's quite a lot of stuff happening here.
Now, all the final sound mixes for Glitch's shows are done in stereo. Let's see if I can give you some sort of example here. So this means that we utilize the left speaker and we also utilize the right speaker to help place on-screen actions. It also just helps to vary up the balance of the audio, makes it more dynamic. There are also a few other tricks that Fabian uses.
You have the left and right, and you have the like close and far, Someone is more far away, it would be like, there would be more reverb or like room information, I'd say.
Why'd you stop shooting? You out of ammo?
Why'd you stop? You out of ammo?
Stereo is a pretty standard way of producing sound for a TV show. It's a good balance of quality and dynamics without getting too crazy. Too crazy is producing sound in 5.1, or surround sound, as it's called. That utilizes 6 speakers. And at the other end is mono sound production, which is basically just a mix utilizing one speaker right in front of you, no mixing or panning at all. Very similar to what I'm doing here, just keep things nice and simple.
Do you ever produce your own sounds? Like, do you ever like, it's just easier for me to actually like get something and like record it?
Of course.
What do you do?
The funny thing is, like, for example, like Pomni, she has something like a small piece of plastic in her hand, and then you start searching your libraries, plastic object falling, but then it depends. Okay, maybe you find some sounds there, but then the library sound doesn't have like the right room. It's maybe recorded in a big room, and Pomni, she's like in a tiny living room or something, or bedroom or something. Way often it's just way faster and more like the precise sound. If you just look, okay, what's she having in her hand? It's like a piece of plastic, and then you just like do this, and then you just put your microphone there and record it. Those libraries, they have like every sound you can imagine, but finding the right one sometimes it just takes too long.
Now, if all this isn't enough, Fabian is also, as I came to find out, a composer. He's a musician.
Is that a piano behind you?
Yeah.
Oh, do you play?
Yeah, of course. I'm doing like sound design and composing music most of the time, I would say.
Wait, are you also a musician?
Yes, of course.
What the fuck? I didn't know that, dude. That stuff's hard, man. That is really hard.
He composes music for the YouTube channel Kurzgesagt. Now, this channel's huge. They don't need me shouting them out, but if you haven't heard of them, you're welcome. You can learn cool new things about like everything with awesome animation, and all the music is produced originally by Fabian and his colleague. Go check out their Spotify if you want to hear more. They're really good. Getting to speak to both Evan and Fabian at length has really opened my eyes, or my ears, to the sheer amount of creative tenacity that goes into the audio behind our shows. It's nice to see how we make audio happen, but it's also cool to see that we're not afraid to utilize the sound of silence, which I think is important. Now, let's tie in the sounds with some cool breakdowns on some visuals. We've already explored the music production for episode 7's amazing psychedelic Fractal sequence, but I want to explain to you how we made those visuals. In fact, I got to speak to the man himself who made them in person at our recent end-of-year catch-up in Sydney at Glitch headquarters. Dean is the lead compositor for all 3D shows at Glitch. He is a major contributor to all those amazing shots you've seen with really cool effects slapped on top. Hi, Dean.
Hey, Fonty, how you going?
Great. I thought this would be the perfect time to ask you about how we did fractals for Digital Circus episode 7. So, how?
Oh my god. There was a discussion had between obviously compositing and VFX, and after a bit of conversation, we decided, well, let's use the right software for the job, and that is Mandelbulb 3D.
How did you find out about this software?
You told me about it.
How did I find out about it? I don't remember.
It was Nick. So the director of Gaslight District informed Goose about a very specific software package that was good for developing fractal environments, and then we all had a look at it, and then you played around with it very briefly and said, Dean, can you do this?
Yeah, so it is an open source piece of software, which means it's completely free. Anyone can use it if you've got the time and patience to learn. It's pretty crazy. You can do infinite geometry in it, can't you?
Yep, so effectively the software uses a series of mathematical equations to determine an infinitely generating 3D environment. So to my absolute astonishment, it actually doesn't utilize so much processing power and like RAM and GPU power to develop this stuff. When you go through like the rendering process though, and especially like for really crisp, high resolution renders, it will take its time, like a traditional rendering process. But just to play around with it though, it's sort of almost real time. So actually, to my surprise.
Now, did you notice that this scene with Jax felt a little bit off, maybe a little bit smooth? That was intentional. Goose really wanted this scene to stand out. So we actually animated the entire thing in 60 frames per second. That's double the normal frame rate of the show. And for this to work, we actually had to export the entire show in 60 frames per second. Every other scene was animated at the normal 30 frames per second. And if you watch it back, it seems to play back at 30 FPS. Sure. But if you were to step through the episode frame by frame on YouTube using the little like full stop on the keyboard, you'll notice that there's only 1 frame of animation for every 2 frames of playback, except of course the psychedelic Fractal scene. And one visual that I really want to cover, simply for the fact that I love these guys so much, are the crapfish. Hey there! We call them the crapfish because we intentionally needed to make them look bad, which is actually a bit of a head scratcher because we accidentally kept making them look too good in the renders coming out of Unreal Engine. It's like the fidelity in the textures and lighting was just too smooth. Unreal Engine just makes things look pretty good by default. So in order to hit that early 3D, slightly eerie, like Gaither's Pond kind of look. Have you seen this show? So to do that, we ended up taking the animator's play blasts, and play blasts are basically just like low quality ambient lighting renders straight from the animation software's viewport. And then we cut the fish out of those and we composited them back onto the Unreal Engine renders. So you got the crappiness of the fish in there. Well, figuring out the audio side of things has been such a fascinating journey for me. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Sorry the video was a bit late. I'm a dad now, and it turns out that babies don't care about their parents' schedules. You're lucky, you're so cute. If there's anything else you want to know more about when it comes to animation production, just let me know in the comments below. Reading the comments in my last video is actually how I decided to focus on sound for this breakdown. And with that, till next time, bye.